Hello, my name is Rajan Arora and welcome to my video series Insights of Cloud Computing. You are watching the video of Module 2 Basics of Cloud Computing Part 7 History of Cloud Computing. If you are new to this series, please start it from the series overview video for better understanding. Thank you. Now, some people think that cloud computing is brand new, and I do agree that the excitement level that it reached is really new and the exposure that it's gotten to just about everyone out there in the world is really brand new. But the idea of cloud computing where you are sharing resources that are somewhere else isn't really all that new. So let's talk a little bit about the history of cloud computing. As cloud computing has been around for a while. Do you know what has it been called in the past? Well, it's been called centralized computing. You might have heard of it as grid computing, distributed computing, on-demand computing, hosting, application service providers or ASPs. Those were big back in the 90s. All these things are essentially cloud computing in one form or another. So, how far back does this go? Well, if we look at the timeline here of cloud computing, first, there are mainframe computers with the big IBM mainframe back in the 1950s and 60s. These were centralized computers, massive computers with dumb terminals, dumb green screen terminals that were attached to them. They could be local, they could be across some form of landline in a remote location, but they are all connected to the same centralized computer, and again, that centralized mainframe computer is a shared pool of resources that in many cases is offsite somewhere. And then throughout the 1960s to the 1980s, there were great advancement around the internet. First, there was something called ARPANET, which was a project by the Department of Defense to connect colleges and universities and military establishments all together, and then there were the protocol called TCP/IP that became the standard for the internet, and it made communication far easier. And then in the 80s, CompuServe connected their network of 5 lakh users directly to the internet, and that was kind of the biggest jump at that point for the user base of the internet. And then in 1970, the virtual machine was run. Not in the cloud, it was run on mainframe computers, essentially slicing up those mainframe computer resources to do other things. But that was kind of the first form of virtualization, and cloud computing needs virtualization. It also needs the internet and shared resources pool. So all these things were important advancement in what later became cloud computing. Another important advancement was in 1990s when virtual private networks become available through telecom providers. So, a virtual private network or a VPN is a secure tunnel or connection through the public internet, essentially virtualizing a network and making it secure so that one computer could talk to another computer without other computers being able to see the traffic, and VPNs are heavily used in cloud computing still today. And then in the 1990s, there were numerous cloud computing advancements and the term began to gain some traction. It started to be used in speeches by prominent technologists, and then in 1999, that is when the first software as a service truly that become well known and become extremely popular, as you will see in the next slide here, Salesforce.com was launched. Salesforce.com is a CRM or a customer relationship management application. CRMs were traditionally just available as local applications. They were very expensive and complex. Salesforce.com made CRM access easy. Over the internet, you could subscribe to their CRM and you could simply pay based on the user count, the number of users that your company used. And that became really the first successful model for this SaaS or software as a service revolution that really took off. From here, Amazon.com was launched in 2006. They launched EC2, which stands for Elastic Computing Cloud, and it is an infrastructure as a service, and in 2006 it was launched as a beta. and EC2 really became the first successful model for all other infrastructure as a service solutions. After that, Google Docs was launched in 2006, and if you are not familiar with it, Google Docs is kind to be like a Microsoft Office in the cloud. So Google Docs provide a word processor, a spreadsheet and a presentation tool all up in the cloud, and your data is stored in the cloud. As well as then in 2008, Microsoft Azure was launched. The Azure IaaS or Infrastructure as a Service. This is when Microsoft really jumped into cloud computing. In 2013, Google Compute Engine or GCE was launched. This is Google's Infrastructure as a Service solution, and now in 2016 and 2017, AWS EC2 revenue is at $12.22 billion and Salesforce.com revenue is estimated to be at over $8 billion in 2017. So, as you can see, when Salesforce.com was launched all the way back in 1999, until today, cloud computing has been around a long time. And it's taken off just tremendously. We are taking over $8 billion in revenue for a single software as a service application and $12 billion for a single infrastructure as a service solution. Obviously, end users and companies are adopting cloud computing like crazy. So maybe you want to see cloud computing in action. That is exactly what we will do in the next video. If you like this video, please do share, like and subscribe to my channel for more such videos. Thank you and see you in the next video.